Yeah, good afternoon. Uh, Thank you for being here. As I said in the morning, uh, the policy showcases is a highlight of this summit. And we had a couple of policies showcased in the morning, which were from the central government. Now we are going to focus on a couple of policies that looks at the state level policies. And we have shortlisted two among many, which we thought um, are critical for the country and have really given good outcome. So let me introduce those policies to you. Uh, Sanjeev, can we have the AV on the Millet mission?
Roti, chapati, dosa, or naan. Whichever you pick, you're mostly consuming just two types of grains, wheat or rice. But it wasn't always so. For centuries, Indians ate nutritious meals rich in millets, easy to grow and resistant to weather changes. Until about 100 years ago, when we shifted to rice and wheat backed by farm subsidies and food grain procurements. This didn't help everyone. People with irrigated farms benefited, while those depending on rains fell behind. What about places receiving barely any rains? Well, we have found a way. 6 years ago, the Odisha government introduced a millet mission. It began with promoting the nutritional value of millets and encouraging people to consume it at home. Then, it turned to increasing production. Farmers were taught modern practices and dedicated centers set up where they could hire mechanized farming equipment. In every village, one progressive farmer was identified and trained to handhold others. Farmer producer organizations were promoted too. Modern processing facilities were set up across the state. It also allocated rupees 580 crore towards the mission for the period from financial year 17 to financial year 22. Today, the mission has covered 19 districts, 143 blocks, and 20,576 villages, benefiting over 2 lakh farmers. Procurement of millets has risen sharply. In the financial year 2019, 18,000 quintals were procured from 5,740 farmers for rupees 5.2 crore. In the financial year 2022, the procurement was 3.2 lakh quintal from 41,286 farmers. The procurement value shot up 20 times, nearly to rupees 110 crore. This year, the government wants to expand the mission to 30 districts and 177 blocks. It has increased the outlay for the financial year 2022 to financial year 2027 period to rupees 2,808 crore. Other states have begun replicating Odisha's millet mission. Its success pushed the central government to embrace the policy and convinced United Nations to announce 2023 as the International Year of Millets.
I thank the organizers of the Mint India Public Policy Summit for this opportunity and to share our experience of Odisha Millets Mission. Decline in cultivation of crops such as millets over the years has led to decrease in climate resilience and dietary diversity of communities. And Odisha Millets Mission therefore aims to revive millets in farms and plates through an end-to-end intervention approach. We started the mission in 2017 and we have covered 177 blocks in all the 30 districts of the state. The vision of the Odisha Millets Mission is to ensure equity and justice to the vulnerable rain-fed upland farmers of the state. We wish to address the twin challenges of climate change and malnutrition through the millets movement in Odisha, and I wish all the best for successful conduct of this particular event. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The other policy that we looked at, again, solved a problem which is very, very challenging, which is air pollution. Gujarat government's emission trading scheme. Sanjeev?
Air pollution is a killer. Literally, Over 1.6 million Indians died of air pollution in 2019, says Lancet, a research publication. A more recent Harvard study says it's even higher, 2.5 million. Not surprising, given that out of the world's 20 most polluted cities, 13 are in India. Clearly, we need strong policies to encourage innovation and save lives. One such experiment is beginning to show results. 4 years ago, the Gujarat government introduced an emission trading scheme in Surat. How does it work? The State Pollution Control Board sets a limit on how much pollutants an industry can emit. This limit is sold to companies in the form of emission permits. Companies can install equipment to limit pollution or buy emission permits to emit pollutants beyond the limit. Those who keep emission below the cap level can sell their surplus permits. Such emission trading schemes reduce pollution at low cost. Every company does not have to install costly equipment. If you cut pollution, sell your permits and earn a profit. If you don't, well, spend more on buying the permits. So this permit-based scheme is based on the polluter pays principle. The buyer bears the cost and the seller gets a reward. And the result? The Gujarat government claims that around 355 industries signed up and air pollution fell by 20% in Surat. The next in line is Ahmedabad, and the government wants to introduce it across the state. Punjab is reportedly keen to try out a similar scheme in Ludhiana. Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Maharashtra are interested too. Clearly, this seems to be a policy that can efficiently cut air pollution across the country.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, these are the policies, and to elaborate more on these, I would like to invite Mr. Dinesh Balam, State Coordinator, Odisha's Millet Mission. Let us welcome him with a round of applause. Followed by Ms. Manali Bhatt, Deputy Environmental Engineer, Gujarat Pollution Control Board. Let us welcome her with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so in the next 20 minutes, I would try and get from them as much of the best practices as I can. Okay, both the Odisha Millet Mission and the Emission Trading Scheme tackled a very obvious and decades-old problem, which is pollution, air pollution, and unsustainable agriculture. Now, what I wanted to know is what made your governments take up this issue? I'll start with Manali.
Basically, how we frame the policy, what ideas.
What made you take it up as a policy in the first place?
Okay, so major, we've conventionally command and control system, which most of the SPCBs are implementing, are not most efficient to control the industrial pollution at desired level. So this market-based instrument, emission trading scheme, provides a flexibility to the industries with incentives. Industries which are under compliance can get the benefits, and industries which are polluting higher, they have to pay more based on the polluter pay principle. So when initially CPCB came out with the guidelines of SEMS, that is continuous emission monitoring systems, in 2018, which laid the paving the path towards these emission trading. But we are getting the data, SEMS data, and the data is not analyzed properly, and if data is not converted into compliance monitoring mechanism, then it is of no use. So that was the basic concept. Also, why Surat was selected, that was the reason behind that. We saw in the film that there are 122 cities of India which are with high non-attachment cities, so having higher pollution potential. So Surat being a textile industrial cluster, it was selected for this project.
Okay. So how does this scheme work? If you can tell us in a very simple terms.
So basically, as I explained, that SAMS is the foundation for trading. If we get the proper data, accurate data up to 95%. So when we started, when initiated this scheme right back in 2015, first phase was SAMS installation. So that at that time, data availability was only 30%. So we carried out a lot of hand-holding and series of workshops and brainstorming with our research partner, that is JPAL. So series of capacity building programs have been conducted. Initially, there was a lot of resistance from industry. So as I said, there are the main, this scheme is launched with three main stakeholders, researcher, regulator being GPCB, and industry. So there was a lot of resistance. So through awareness programs and hand-holding, we convinced the industries, and bringing consultative approach was created, and that worked a lot. And association took a major role to bring all these industries on board. So after having a 90% of accurate data, we launched the market in 2019. After that, 30 compliance periods have been completed so far. So there are 5 elements of this scheme. A regulator has to set a cap. So based on that SAMS data, initially, regulator has to set the cap between these 300 industries. Permits are given on pro rata basis. On their boiler capacity, we allot the permit within a compliance period through a trading platform that is made by NCDX, that is a subsidiary body of NEML. So that they have made a platform and industries are trading. And most of the most important part of this scheme is monitoring and compliance monitoring. So at the end of the compliance period, being a regulator, we monitor the how much permits are settled. If industries have not settled their permit, we have a market oversight committee. So they define the market rules. Based on that, we levy the environmental damage compensation from the which industries they have not settled their permits. So basically, now the thing is that industries have started thinking beyond the compliances, and self-discipline is also increased due to this project, and encouraging results are also achieved, we have observed. Thank you.
Okay. Dinesh, why did the Odisha government take up the millet mission so strongly?
Thank you, Madhavan. To begin with, as our Principal Secretary Sir has mentioned, it's a matter of justice and equity on the first principle. Just to give you a statistics, if you look at the total cultivated area, more than 60% area is rain-fed area, which is dependent on rain. And if you take a single year investment in irrigated area, that is more than total investment over 40 years on rain-fed areas. So 50% of the population stays there, but it gets minuscule investment. So that is, I think as a public policy summit, this thing should be actually very strongly studied. The second thing is that in the rain-fed area also, if you look at the uplands, uplands are the lands that are taken by small and marginal farmers. It could be Dalits, it could be tribals, it could be the most vulnerable population. And what are the crops that are grown in uplands? That is primarily millets. They are not the paddy and other situation. So it is a matter of, so if Odisha has on an average invests around, let's say, 20,000 crore every year on agriculture, only a small part used to go to this entire area. So when this feedback was given to Honorable Chief Minister, he said that it's a matter of justice and equity, and we will invest money if required on the uplands, so ensure that we can affect the nutrition security, livelihood. I'm not talking about climate resilient nutrition of millets. I'm assuming that this august audience is aware of it. And another important aspect of it is the social exclusion and inclusion. So if you travel, let's say, 150 kilometers from the Malkangiri to Koraput, you would get 10 languages. Odisha has 62 communities. You have Dides, Parajas, Bondas, and it has people from Sri Lankan Tamils. So it's one of the multi-cosmic. So this, when you take away the food that people eat, you take away their stories, you take away their songs, you take away their culture. So Odisha Millet Mission is not just about equity and justice, it's also about revalorization, bringing back millets and its glory in the plates and farms.
Another thing about this millet mission has also been the holistic approach. So you did not go about trying to increase just the millet production. So you have looked at increasing the consumption. You have looked at increasing the productivity. You have also looked at the improving processing capabilities. So you seem to have adopted a holistic approach. Can you talk about that?
So, like if you look at our agriculture policy, if in Green Revolution, we increased paddy and wheat production. So there was a food shortage, we met that in Pulse Revolution in last 10 years, we became pulse sufficiency. So there's always a huge demand of pulses, you just had to increase the production. But millets, people have forgotten. People have forgot the taste. There's a generation who don't have a memory of a food. So in millet revolution had to be a consumption revolution. To make a consumption revolution, also it's not just about urban people eating. It's about 1 billion people eating once or twice a week at least. That's when you can have a cereals. So for example, just to give, if 1 million biscuits, I can grow amount of millet required in 1 million biscuits in 100 acres. So when you're talking about a lakhs of hectare, you have to change the consumption pattern. Hence the consumption strategy. And the consumption strategy necessitates a overall integral approach. It just cannot be increasing production. So it includes, so to increase consumption, you have to make it easier for people to cook. So you have to work on processing and local technologies. You have to make sure it's available in the market. So that's how we got into the overall thing. So the bottom line was increasing consumption of the, making it a staple diet. Hence the overall framework came in, not just a productivity-centric approach.
And that has really helped.
Yeah, that has helped, yeah, definitely, I think.
Manali, tell us about the challenges you faced when you started implementing this emission trading scheme.
Initially, as I explained, that there was a lot of resistance from the industries to adopt for a STAMPS installation. STAMPS devices were initially very costly also. When we bring up association in the loop, they through some negotiations also, cost of the STAMPS devices went down. So industry opted. Then we convinced them, industry had an impression that they will get more stringent action when time series data will be available with the regulator. But we convinced them this is the pilot project and overall key goal was to improve the ambient air quality and reduce the particulate matter emission. So they already installed, 300 industries have already installed. And second challenge was to bring the data availability and accuracy, so to have a good quality of data. So for that, we carried out some data encryption policies also, data back checks mechanisms also, and data imputation we also implemented in enforcement mechanism. So that also include the increase in the data availability. During emission trading launch, there were, it was the first kind of PM market is first of its kind. So initially to understand the market and rules and all, so series of programs were conducted for awareness and hand-holding sessions were also carried out for the industries. And all the stakeholders, GPCB, JPAL has carried out all the programs in coordination with trading platform partner and all.
Dinesh, your side, what sort of challenges did you face? Did the farmers accept this easily, having been used to paddy in a big way?
So when we selected, we began in the tribal areas, so acceptance was not an issue. Let me explain this by an example. We pretty much had to reinvent the system. Take for example, when we started procurement process. So when you do procurement, you do something called awareness. There's something called FAQ quality, fair average quality, parameters by which you procure. Odisha has 62 tribal communities, so many languages. So when we first did our communication exercise, which idea was to ensure that you bring X amount of quality with this grade. By the time it actually reached so many farmers, in some places, people actually added sand and brought millets to the procurement. So that's how the communication gap was there. So specifically in the tribal areas, in-depth areas, remote areas with so many languages, there was a communication was a problem. Second, when we realized we wanted to procure, you procure at a place called Mandi. So Mandi, so you do an awareness campaign through Rath. It's called, this is where the Mandi is. And the government has a policies, etc. But the Rath that was going, then I realized first year we had a very low procurement, 17,000 quintal. This year we had 6 lakh quintal in 2000. So it's nearly 20, 30 times. When we realized why it is not working, we realized the driver has figured out a route for last 30 years. So he was not changing the route. So driver did not go to the millet villages at all. So we had to go to that level. So every person, every structure, every rule, even the color of grading. So we had to pretty much reinvent this and train this entire system of thousands of people, workers, so many departments. So I think for us, this involving training, bringing them on board was a real mammoth exercise. And this is true for all the activities.
Okay. And Manali, how cleaner is the air over Surat now?
So initial experience, 3 years tradings has been completed so far. And we observed initially, as suggested by our researchers, out of 300 industries, all have installed SAMs. 155 industries were into trading for last 2 years, 2.5 years. And now all 300 industries are into trading. But we observed that industries which are into trading have reduced 20 to 30% PM emissions so far. So the results are very encouraging, and there are so intangible benefits also there. So with PM reduction in control units, we are also getting intangible benefits that industries has been more sensitive towards their emission. Earlier, it was not that. Obviously, it's a win-win situation for us also. We have using this SAMS data into our environmental regulations. So smart monitoring is increased. Using that data, we are picking the higher polluter industries with, so within a time we are getting the instinct and we get the physical verifications and things are improving.
Okay. So, how has this transformed the life of the farmers, consumers? Have you done any study in the last few years? The consumption of millet has gone up substantially, and the production has also gone up substantially. So how has this positively impacted the stakeholders? Has there been any study?
Yes, I will quote few facts, and then I will say larger effect of OMM on Odisha agriculture policies. One is that based on the midterm analysis of around 10,000 farmers, the yields have doubled and incomes have tripled. So
Yields have doubled?
Doubled from 6.41 to 14 point something, more than doubled. The income from value of produce has nearly tripled. So for an upland farmer, it is a lot. The area has increased by over lakh hectare, so it's nearly on the way to double. And we have targeted to increase the area by 5 times in coming 5 years. So, what started in 30 blocks has now gone to 177 blocks. Huge demand and etc. The consumption survey, we have seen there's a 15% increase on the average household level consumption. So, which is a substantial number. The urban consumption has definitely increased. But because of the paucity of time, I would say the larger effect of the Odisha Millet Mission. The Odisha Millet Mission was the first initiative in 2016, which removed the condition that farmer land has to be mandatory to invest on farmer. Every other scheme used to be like that. So we did the first DBT for the farmer for adopting millet cultivation. So that later was taken up in Kalia. That was later moved into PM Yojana. So a lot of experiences were gone there. We were the first scheme which allowed farmers to use their own seeds. So we allowed them, we trusted in the farmer's wisdom. Now every government program allows farmers to do it. So no other state does it, only Odisha does it. We were the first scheme which kind of said that we can procure from farmers without getting approval of revenue. The local sarpanch, the PRA members is empowered to certify farmer as a cultivator, not a revenue inspector. A lot of blood had to flow because of this. Because revenue land is very strong, revenue department is very touchy subject. So now every procurement that has been adopted. So there is the benefits of millet mission for the millet farmers. There's the benefit of millet mission for the agriculture policies. I think that has been more substantial. Long after this mission is over, that will remain.
And the center has praised this policy and many states are showing interest. So do you see this becoming a much larger mission, much beyond Odisha?
Definitely. I think at least 6-7 state governments have actually reached out to us and we are giving them the technical support. But yeah, I think most important is that the tenant farmers, the upland farmers, small marginal farmers, they are the people who have not been benefit of the huge agriculture investment that has been done. I think if that changes, I think this will actually be a kind of a policy revolution for other farmers. So we hope others, because it will take time. It took 5 years for us to stabilize. And the land department, revenue department are not going to let go so easily. So forest departments are not going to let go of forest rights so easily. So ensuring for the people in forested lands, material is procured, which is not done in most of the government schemes. These are our revolutionary ideas. We are willing to extend support to any state that is interested and for the benefit of this disaffected population.
And Manali, there was this talk that you're going to extend this scheme to Ahmedabad and then across Gujarat, and some other states have also shown interest. Where do we stand now? Nothing has been talked about these things these days. So what is the position today?
Ahmedabad is already underway. SAM's installation is already completed in 150 industries, and market will be launched within 1 month. So, and we are in continuous deliberation with Jaipal to launch in Golden Corridor, that is from Vadodara to Vapi. There are so many industrial pockets, so we are trying to expand the market as well in Gujarat. And other states, Maharashtra, a lot of deliberations are going on. And Telangana is recently visited, Telangana PS sir has already visited our sites, and they have also got the keen. And Karnataka is also interested.
Okay, before we sort of wind up, I would like both of you to share what are the best practices that you could glean from these policies. You can start.
Key takeaways or best practices from this scheme, it is overall capacity building has been done, be it is an industry, be it is a regulator, or lot of gains is through this scheme we have gained. So initially SAMS is under CPCB's mandate. Every 17 category high polluting industries have to install the SAMS. But the data quality and accuracy is nowhere is established. But through this project, we came to know how this data, accurate data can be maintained. So there were so many challenges. Initially, labs and industries, even GPCB staff or regulator was not aware about how this calibration exercise to be done. So that is built up an ecosystem. Everybody, overall capacity building of each stakeholders is done through this. Even the enforcement mechanism through this market oversight committee has given a lot of push to reduce the pollution. Industries earlier were not so hyperactive to control the pollution. But through this initiative, as money is involved, they have to pay for higher emission. So they have started investing in pollution abatement technologies. They have adopted more cleaner fuel. So that is the key takeaway. And yes, to channelize or to improvise the system, continuous deliberations are going on. And there's checklists for the vendors and every stakeholders have streamlined the things. And enforcement protocol, like initially there was a resistance, many industries were not settling their permits. But this EDC mechanism has pushed up, and now it has shown the good results, and everybody is on board, and they are into trading. So these are the major key takeaways.
Dinesh?
So I think from a broad principle point of view, in the agriculture, the culture of the food part is important. That I think should become the policy, and it can be successful. It's not just a romantic notion. That is something that we have shown, and we are also adopting to other crops. In terms of practices, I think we have actively involved our women self-help groups, community farmers, FPOs, local NGO partners, and we have ensured at every level there is investment there is in human resources. See, behavior transformation, especially like millets, which is kind of changing what you eat, needs a lot of investment in human resources. So that is one part. Most importantly, I think what we have found, the common thread is most of the farmers, the women SHGs and others, have forgotten or at least are no longer believe in their deliberative capacities. I think by trusting in them, you can actually bring a lot of transformation. That is something that we have seen. Like just to mention, when we started Millet, I remember when we started the first program, first workshop in 2016, I made an address to the gathering of tribal sarpanches. All of them cried for 40 minutes, saying that when we were children, when we entered into school, we were separated based on our food that we eat. But now the same people are now champions of open millet outlets and everything. So I think by investing in people's deliberative capacities, details can come later. That is where the success is, in your roots, in your culture, and in your, most importantly, your food culture. think that has to become part of policy.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you'll agree that a lot of effort has gone in these two policies to try and address issues which are very critical for our country. So please put your hands together. This is a great work done by these people. And thank you, Manali. Thank you, Dinesh, for sharing your success story. Thank you.